Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about some books that I am currently reading and books that I have on my TBR for the rest of fall going into winter. I have a constant flow of books becoming available on the Libby app, so I'm basically going to share the ones that are coming up next. But first, I'm just going to talk about what I'm reading right now. Okay. Actually, first, let's rewind and talk about what I was reading before what I'm currently reading, and that was Cersei by Madeline Miller, who is phenomenal. That's the author of one of my favorite books of all time, The Song of Achilles. Very highly rated, very popular book, and I was so excited to read it. So Cersei is a Greek mythology retelling. So it follows Cersei, who is born of Helios, who is the god of the sun. So she comes from, you know, a very powerful family, but she's born without any powers. She's a bit of an outcast and kind of shunned from her family and her community. She ends up falling in love with a mortal and then discovering that she has powers to transform mortals into gods and gods into monsters. She discovers that she has all of these witchcrafty capabilities, and because of that, Zeus is threatened and banishes her to a deserted island where she kind of pursues her witchcraft and honestly lives a bit of a cottagecore dream. That's basically where I got up to. I'm so disappointed to say that I was really struggling to get into this, and it's not because of her writing, because I love Madeline Miller's writing, but I think it's just, I don't know, I think it's a combination of things. Maybe just like where I'm at right now, it's just like not where my brain's at right now. I was a little bit overwhelmed by all of the characters, and I also have like no background knowledge of Greek mythology, so when all those characters and everything is brand new to you, I think it can be just like a little bit too much. I was a little bit bored, and yeah, I feel bad even saying this because I was just so excited to read this book. I know everybody loves this book. Well, a lot of people love this book, and I had just like hyped it up in my mind so much because I loved The Song of Achilles so much, which is interesting because again, I didn't know anything about Achilles or that whole story, but I was just so consumed by that book and loved it so much. So it's interesting that I'm like struggling with this one, but I am still gonna finish this one day. I'm just putting this on the back burner for now, and then I'm gonna pick it up at a later time, and hopefully, you know, I'll be able to kind of fall in love with it and appreciate it more. But yeah, I was just like, I felt like I was just like pushing myself to keep reading it, and I got to page 109, so I feel like I gave it a pretty decent shot. But yeah, I don't know, that's kind of what happened with this one. I'm so sorry to say, but yeah, we'll try this again later. Oh, and before that, I also had another one where I kind of had the same thing, like I just couldn't get into it, and that was The Night Circus, which I was also disappointed about because I was so excited to just like kick off spooky season with that book because again, it was really highly recommended, and yeah, I was just really looking forward to that. But it was kind of the same thing. Like, it was a bit of a complicated story in that there was so many different characters, and like I felt like every chapter was just like a completely different scene, and I was just like, how is this related? Like, what is going on? I don't know. I'm not even gonna get into that one too much because I don't think I will read that, end up like finishing that anytime. I'm just like done with that one. But I have moved on to something different. We're changing gears here, and the book that I was like basically next available on my library list was Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover, and I had wanted to read that book for quite a while. I've read two of Colleen Hoover's books before. One is Verity, which is one of my favorite thrillers, and then the other was It Ends With Us, which is like kind of a romance, like a sad romance, deals with domestic abuse. I thought that was a good book. I didn't love the main character, but I thought that the story was good overall, and I definitely cried at the end. So after reading those two, I wanted to try out more Colleen Hoover books. Ugly Love is a really popular one. That's why it was on my list, and it was available through my library, so I've just been reading that on my Kobo. Other Colleen Hoover books that I want to read are Reminders of Him, and November 9th is also on my holds list, I believe, but that one's like, what is going on? that one's not going to be available for a while. So Ugly Love, I am about almost a third of the way through now. You can see the little progress bar on the bottom here. And so far I'm enjoying it. It's not anything groundbreaking yet, but I find it entertaining and I am enjoying it. It follows a woman named Tate who falls in love with an airline pilot, and at first they really don't get along, really have like a bit of an abrasive, you know, first impression, first meeting. But then as they kind of are exposed to each other a couple more times, they realize that there's an undeniable attraction between the two of them. And as this is kind of unfolding, we're going back into his past. His name is Miles. We're going back into Miles' past and uncovering like some sort of deep romantic trauma, it's seeming. I'm only a third through, but we're uncovering this like horrible thing that's happened in his past that seems to be preventing him from getting into any other relationships or pursuing love at all. So I think the gist of it is that Tate and Miles get into a bit of a situationship, which is really complicated by Miles' past. And yeah, we'll see what happens. The book is called Ugly Love, so I'm assuming it's not going to be a happy book. Another book that I'm reading right now is one that I just picked up a couple of weeks ago, and I've just like been like kind of dabbling in it whenever I just have like a few minutes, whenever I'm sitting down and relaxing, and that is Start Where You Are, A Guide to Compassionate Living by Pema Chodron. And this is nonfiction. It's basically sharing Buddhist philosophy presented in a really like down to earth, kind of more understandable and relatable way. It talks a lot about embracing pain and darkness and utilizing that to grow and have a more open heart. And I just love that concept so much. And I'm sure that there's going to be so many just like amazing thoughts and lessons and tidbits of information in this. You can see I've barely dipped into this. I really need to just like sit down and consume this more, but it's one of those books where I just like really want to be able to digest and think about what I'm reading, because I think that it's going to be really impactful. Now this was actually suggested, well, this like author in general, there's many different books. This is just the one that I picked up. This was suggested to me by somebody on my video where on my main channel where I opened up about my panic attacks. And I can definitely see why, because the whole concept of not running away from the darkness and what is hard and what is painful is something that it really has just like changed the way that I view panic attacks and changed the way that I view a lot of things actually. And that's really like one of the key concepts to recovering, I think, because panic attacks are a fear of anxiety. So if you can not be scared, then you're not really trapped by that anymore. Anyways, my mom also is into Pema Chodron, so I figured, you know, I'm gonna take this as my sign to start reading some books from her. And yeah, really excited about this one. I am also listening to a couple of audiobooks right now. Let me pull up. This is the nice thing about the Libby app, you guys, because I can like obviously reserve my books that I want to actually read on my Kobo and it'll transfer them onto there, but I can also listen to audiobooks just on my phone through this app, which is so handy. So right now I'm listening to, I actually just started the book Waking Up by Sam Harris, which it says it's a guide to spirituality without religion. So like I said, I haven't really gone too deep into this one, but this caught my eye because as I was like looking at different meditation apps and like looking through threads of which meditation apps people liked and which ones were recommended, the app Waking Up was recommended, and it's also created by this author. So I was using that app for a while and then my free trial ran out, so I'm debating just like paying for it and getting it because I was really enjoying it. But anyways, I saw that there was a book, so I was like, I'll read the book because that's free on my library app. And then I'm also listening to, or was listening to, I honestly don't even know if I'm gonna finish it, but I was listening to Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. I'm 42% of the way through and I'm just not feeling it. I'm sure a lot of you know of this book or have seen the movie. I have not seen the movie, nor had I read the book before. And there is some parts of it that I do enjoy, and some of it is like entertaining, but I think overall it just like, I don't know, something about it just doesn't sit right with me. Like, this privileged woman gets to go on an all expenses paid trip to write this book about her like spiritual transformation. I don't know. Like I said, there are some useful things, but it just comes off as a little, I don't even know the word, like out of touch maybe. And she kind of like talks about like these like hardships that she's had, which are kind of just regular things that a lot of people go through. Yeah, I don't know. I know a lot of people love this book, which is great, but yeah, I don't think that it is for me. All right, so now into the books that are coming up on my list of books to read for the next couple of months. So the first one that is going to become available, which I will probably be reading after I'm done Ugly Love, is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson, which is, I think it's a bit more of a young adult book, but I've heard it's really good, so I'm gonna read it anyways. It's a mystery slash thriller. So it follows a girl who lives in a town where a murder-suicide happened a few years earlier, which had really like rocked their town. She kind of has a feeling that there's more to the story. I think that she knew the people involved, so she decides to look into this case as one of her final projects for school, I guess, which is interesting. But she ends up uncovering, you know, different secrets, and it sounds like she gets herself in a bit of a precarious situation. So yeah, just like murder mystery thriller vibes, which I don't know, I've struggled with murder mysteries. I've read a couple this year and I didn't really like them. I know I read The Guest List, and then there was another one that I read that I didn't like. I can't remember what it was called right now. But again, this one is really popular, pretty highly reviewed, so I'm going to give it a shot, and it should be easy to read as well since I think it's geared for like a bit of a younger audience. And then the next one, I actually, sometimes this happens to me with my library loans. They come up in an order which I don't love, but the one that is available right after that one is another murder mystery slash thriller. But this one is called All Good People Here, and this is by Ashley Flowers, who is one of the podcast hosts for Crime Junkie podcast, I believe, which I've actually never listened to, but my mom listens to it and she's always going on about it. And then she was talking about how Ashley Flowers released a book, and we were kind of listening to what it's about, and I was like, hey, that actually sounds pretty good. So I reserved it about probably 6 weeks ago now on my library app, and it's coming up. It says about 2 weeks it'll be available. It sounds very similar to the last one, which is why I'm like, I'm not like stoked about possibly reading those back to back. But I kind of just have to read them as they come up on my, I mean, I can delay it, but I've already delayed them so much, so I'll probably just read them in a row. But small town murder mystery vibes where somebody starts digging into the case and kind of uncovering things. It's actually really highly rated, so I am excited to read it. And it's the season for it. Speaking of the season, the next one, I am quite excited to read this one because it's very on theme. I'm hoping that it becomes available before Halloween. I'm really hoping. So this one is The Ex Hex by Erin Sterling. So this one follows a young witch who is going through a breakup, and against her better judgment, she decides to put a curse on her ex. She thinks that it won't really be a big deal or do anything too crazy, maybe just cause him a little bit of inconvenience, but it sounds like it ends up causing a lot of mayhem, and she has to navigate the fallout from that. So it sounds like a really like kind of cute, fun book. So I am excited to read that, and I think that's going to be like, yeah, just a great book to read for this month. And also something just a little bit different than the other ones on my list. So this, oh, actually I'll definitely be able to read it this month because it says I'm first in line, and it says about 2 weeks. So I might actually be able to sneak that in between my 2 murder mysteries. Also, the way that I create my reading list and like choose which books I'm going to be reading is basically through people's suggestions, either on my videos or on Instagram. Also, I watch BookTube, and I used to watch a little bit of Book Talk, but I haven't really been on TikTok that much lately. which is good because that is just like a black hole that sucks me right in for way too long. But I watch BookTube and I get recommendations from there. So I usually look up whenever there's a book that I'm interested in, I usually look up to see if my library has it, and if it does, then I'll put a hold on it. If there's something that I really want to read and it's not available at the library, then I will like buy the book. But I primarily read on my Libby app. So yeah, very nice. It's very nice. Okay, and then the last one that I'm going to talk about is called Ninth House, which it sounds like this is a bit more of an adult themed book from what I've read. I'm actually quite intrigued to read this one. It is a dark academia mystery, so honestly perfect vibes. Maybe I'll read this one, and I'll probably read this in like November actually, and I think that that's just gonna be like the perfect time of year for it. So it follows our main character, Alex, who has had a really difficult life, has gone through a bunch of different hardships, and it sounds like she's involved in some sort of like homicide murder situation, and she's in the hospital because of this. And while she's in the hospital, she's somehow offered a full ride to go to Yale, to go to school at Yale. She's a very strange candidate for this, and it's very unexpected, but I guess she goes and is trying to figure out why she was chosen for this, and then she ends up uncovering a bunch of sinister things and occulty things that are going on. So it sounds like it's a bit of a spooky book. And it's also been classified as fantasy, I believe. So this book just sounds like it has a lot of different themes going on, and I'm really interested to read it. This has also come as highly reviewed from other people, so yeah. It sounds like it's going to be really different from the books that I typically read, which is nice. I don't think it's like full-on fantasy, but I do kind of want to dip my toes and kind of like try out some fantasy books. So the next one that I'll talk about it more in my other video, because I'm kind of going in order of like what I predict I will be reading for like the next couple months. So who knows how long it's going to take me to get through the books that I've already mentioned in this video. But the next one that's on my list is A Court of Thorns and Roses, which is a fantasy book, and I'm really excited to read that. I've been wanting to read it for a while now. It's just like taking forever for it to become available at my library. But yeah, I will talk about that one once I get there, because it's a little bit down the road from me at this point. I hope that y'all enjoyed listening to what books I am reading and am going to be reading for this season. If you have any comments about any of the books that I mentioned, leave them down below. No spoilers, please, obviously. Also, any recommendations would be awesome. I am always, you know, kind of adding to my list. And fall and winter are the perfect seasons to be really getting into reading. So I'm very excited about that, although it is so sunny here, you guys. Like, it has been so hot and warm. I mean, I'm okay with the sun, but I want the air to be crisp, you know? But it's not. Every afternoon when I'm taking Olive for WALK, I'm like sweating. Anyways, yeah, thank you for watching. The next video on this channel is probably going to be a weekly vlog. I'm going to be vlogging. I have so much stuff going on this month, you guys. Like, it's actually crazy. I have something literally every weekend, and I have a really fun weekend coming up this weekend. So I think I'm going to be vlogging for that. As always, thank you so much for being here on my vlog channel. I know it's sporadic and just kind of random, but I really appreciate everyone who watches, so thank you so much. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!